The meeting on government operations and public safety, public service will come to order.
All right, this is the Committee on Government Operations, Public Safety, Public Service. This is Thursday, February 4th, 2016, and we're at 6 p.m. And I have Councilor McKinnon.
Here.
Councilor Capone.
Here.
I have Councilor De La Sola.
Here.
And I have Councilor Hill. We have 4 members present. We do have a quorum.
Please stand, salute the flag. I have one regret from Councilman Mike McLaughlin. He is not able to attend tonight due to a prior commitment. Please read.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, could we take could we suspend the rules, take items we'll take item number 8. We have a colleague in the audience who's not on the committee, and that way we don't hold her up any longer than we have to.
Suspend rules and take item number 8. Please read an item number 8, please.
Item number 8. This is a resolution up by Council Rosa DeFlorio and Leo McKinnon to invite the chief of police to this meeting relative to having all no-corner parking within 20 feet of an intersection enforced.
Your pleasure on the piece.
Could we please have the police chief and Councilor DeFlorio before us?
It's been motioned to have the police chief and the sponsor come before us. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Could you please state your names and titles? Welcome.
At this point, I'd ask if the sponsor would like to inquire, and if she's more comfortable, maybe in the chamber or out of the chamber. So that,
She has
does
to
she have to
stay,
stay
yeah.
there? So they might be looking at each other? Okay, okay, so I,
Councilwoman?
There were people complaining, especially coming out on Buckingham Street, from Waverly Street, and other areas, not just that area, where they're trying to come out and make the corner in the morning or afternoon or at night. It's very dangerous. They can't see how to get into the main road or how to get into Buckingham Street or any other street. So we really have to be diligent in starting to enforce this problem. And we're not here to make money on this. It's a public safety issue, and the people need to know. I mean, this administration has done everything. They've made lines, they've put white lines of where you can park, even on Main Street, and people just don't want to abide by those rules. So I'm asking the chief to please start really, really getting on top of enforcing it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to start hitting people in the pocket in order to keep the public safe. So that's the only question I have for the chief.
Chief, do you have anything to add on that?
So, no, I mean, it's obviously not a, am I on? It's not a new issue.
Great. Actually, I have a couple of questions from the chair. I know that you guys were actually on top of that, so you've been hitting them as much as you can. But there are some instances where a fire apparatus and ambulance can't even get down these streets, so that's why it's coming up again. So if we can just address it. Thank you.
I have
Councilwoman?
just one more comment. As a matter of fact, just the other night on Stewart Street, there was an ambulance and there was a fire in the basement, and the fire truck couldn't even get down the street. One of my neighbors had to go there and and guide the fire truck on how to get through the street because of the problem with the parking, and they couldn't make the corner. So there's a lot of issues with that. It's, not- you know, it's, like I said, it's dangerous. So if we have to put extra people on to do this constantly, then we have parking enforcement at night. Are they allowed, they're allowed to do the corners, is that correct?
They're allowed, yep.
Okay.
We also have personnel on eaves. We were, actually, we had a person.
Great. Is there any other questions, councilors? Seeing none, what's the pleasure? Oh, Councilman Capone.
Just for the sponsor, what's your pleasure with this? Refer back to sponsor, do you want to?
I'll make a motion to, well, you make the
Okay.
motion, but yes, refer back sponsor.
Very
Thank you,
good.
Counselor.
Thank you. I have no other questions. Excuse the customary thanks.
Excuse the customary thanks. Motion made and seconded to refer back to sponsor. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman, if we could please take number 9, suspend the rules, take number 9 out of order again for the colleague.
Please suspend the rules and take item number 9.
Item number 9. This is a resolution by Council Rosa DeFlorio and Leo McKinnon to invite city services director to this meeting relative to discussing all 15-minute parking.
On the piece.
Councilman Capone.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. If we could please have the sponsor and Director of City Services before us.
Can we have the sponsor and the Director of City Services before us? Please state your name and title. Councilwoman.
Rosa.
DPW Director Jerry Navarro.
Rosa DeFlorio, City Council, Ward 5.
Thank you for appearing.
Is this in regards to item number 9?
Yes.
And, okay, we have some 15-minute, there's signs that says 15-minute parking, but they're not within, they're within like 8 or 9 feet. Okay, so we have a problem with people parking at the corners. Unfortunately, the 15-minute signs, it's dangerous whether you park there 1 minute or 3 minutes, but if you don't enforce them, there's people that park there all day long. And the other problem is that these corners, there's a lot of hills in there, but unfortunately, and it makes it difficult. So what we're saying is, anything that's not within 20 feet, we have no problem with the 15-minute parking, because the businesses in Everett do need the parking, and we do have to give them business. But just to move them, so in an area where it's not within 8 feet, it has to be within the 20 feet.
Do we have specific locations? I'm sure there's.
I have a
numerous.
few.
Okay, we'll address them on a
But
case-to-case.
I think, I mean, I don't know about the whole city. It's not like I went out and I did a survey, but there's a few of them where people have complained, so I can give you those addresses. But my recommendation is, you know, maybe the sign guy or somebody down city service, as they drive in the city, I'm not saying to make it a special job, but as they drive in the city, whether they're cleaning or whether they're in the truck going somewhere, just to, you know, look at the signs and see and make sure they are within the 20
Sure, and
feet.
if anyone has exact locations, we'd be more than happy to address them.
I will give those to you after the meeting.
Is there any other questions? I have one from the chair. If we're going to be enforcing the 20 feet to the corner, like we just suggested to the chief, and we're going to be stepping it up, we need to do so with these signage areas as well. So I have a list as well. I'll be sending it to you. I'll forward it to you via email. I suggest if anyone else on the council or this committee has a list, we can open it up and just send open dialogue to you. Okay. Thank you very much. Excuse customary thanks.
Thank you. And
The only question I would have, Mr. Chairman, is for the sponsor, what would you like to do with this piece?
let's refer it back to sponsor, and then if I have any further questions, I'll put it back on again.
Very good. I have no other questions.
Thank you.
Excuse customary thanks. Thank you for appearing. And motion made and seconded
Refer back to sponsor.
refer it back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. piece?
Mr. Chairman, if we could, we have some residents in the audience. Which piece specifically is that for?
I believe
It was the address one,
number 7.
number 7. Could we suspend the rules and take item number 7?
Motion made to suspend the rules and take item number 7. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 7.
All right, item number 7. This is a resolution held by Council McKinnon to invite the building department, the assessor's office, the city engineer, to this meeting to explain why there are properties throughout the city that are being sent tax bills sent to them with different addresses.
Could we have the building department, the assessor's office, and Mr. Julius Sofroni before us? Could you please state your names and titles? Just push the button.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for appearing tonight. I'm going to ask these questions from the chair. We have a situation where residents have been receiving their tax bills at different locations, and they have different locations that are being mailed out to them. I had spoken briefly to Mr. Fernie, and he had explained a little bit of it to me, but I wanted him to give a better definition of what was going on and if there was anything that could be done with this. I have actual copies with me, so that
Oh,
if you need to see
you don't
them.
need to see them.
Okay. So you
There's
know
many
about
that
this?
exist,
Okay.
yes.
Is there a,
This
is
has
this a
been
big
going
number
on
of things that are
forever.
going on
This
here?
has been going on forever. And one of the things that's bringing it to the forefront more now is that the building department is going on a new computer system. So in doing that, we are trying to merge all our records together so everybody talks to each other. In doing so, the building department has been looking through our list of addresses, and any that disagreed with theirs, they noticed us, and we changed our location fields to reflect whatever the building department had, which are the official city numbers. We know that some people are just putting whatever number they want on the house. It's not an issue with the post office. As long as they see a number and they're aware of it, they will deliver. So it isn't like there's been any enforcement. If we see that the mailing address is a different street number, we have not changed that. We've just changed our location field to reflect the same address as the building department records. And we don't get involved with what's a legal street address. It's not our bailiwick. We're not the ones that assign it. So if anybody questions it, the first thing we do is, Julius will show you on the assessors maps, it shows the dimension of the lot, it shows the house sitting on top of the lot, and on the map, it gives a street number. And so if anybody comes in and challenges that to our department, the first thing we do is we look at the assessors map to see if we had made a mistake. If it agrees with the assessors map, we then suggest they go to the building department and discuss whatever it is, whatever the discrepancy is with the street address. If the building department decides that it should be a different number, they give us an official notice and tell us to change the address to whatever they deem is the address. And that's how it's been handled. In my tenure, which has been 5.5 years.
Okay, some of the individuals that I have spoke to, and I'm going to speak through the chair, excuse me for doing so, but they came to me with this, and they basically said that for a number of years, they were number 9 on their respective street, but they're getting number 3
Yep.
or number 3 getting number 9, and then, let me see. I mean, this, to me, I mean.
Well,
this
it goes
is-
all over the place,
this
and
is a
it's many,
problem.
many streets throughout the city that are like this.
Number 17 is going to number 9.
Yep.
So, I mean, why is this? I mean.
Well,
Well,
can I shed
you-
some lights to this?
Yes, please, because, I mean, that right there, I mean, if the building department's not here, are they here? I requested them to come, and they're not here, and I wanted them to answer that for me. What's going on with that?
Yeah, sometimes the building department actually refer these cases to engineering. In the past, we've always had this problem with addresses, and it's gone from different mayors since I've been here. And most times, we want to sometimes appease the residents, because of confusion in the numbers, looking into some of the maps that we have, some of the atlas, when the city was actually built at the time, you would find that back in 1903, we have one number. Then as the city begins to grow, numbers begins to change. We never change these numbers, So for example, I brought some maps here, it goes from one number in 1903, then in 1922, then you have the different numbers, So what happens here is that when those number changes, and we have some new numbers, those numbers are regarded as like an AKA, which is like, non-numbers, Those are the numbers that actually goes to assessor's office. So when the complaint is filed to the office, we always tell them that we have the original numbers here, but sometimes we recommend not to change those numbers because some of them, if you have a deed and you have a number there, and you have your licenses, all numbers there, so it's very difficult for a resident to go and start changing the numbers, So that's why we end up staying with the AKA numbers, And what I usually do is I actually put them through and show them what we have in the engineering office, because I really don't change most of these numbers, and if it is new properties, then we can give you new numbers, but the old ones has been an issue. So what we do now is that we have all these agencies, have all these numbers, like 911, the GIS, Mass GIS, city departments, what we do, if we do change the numbers, everyone is aware of it. The key issue here is sometimes the 911 and the police, they really have to know what number it is in case there's an incident.
That's where I'm going with this, that's why it's here. If an individual is having a problem at, say, number 9 on a certain street, but we're saying it's number 17, that's an issue.
Right.
They'll show up at number 17, and it will be number 9 that's having the problem. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so that's where I'm kind of confused with how these are going out, and, even the individual that's receiving these, they're saying, we've always been number 9, we don't understand what it is and what's going on with this. And then they came to City Hall, and they tried to get an answer, and they were directed to the engineering department.
Right.
So, help me with this, just a
Yeah.
little bit, so that we can actually make sure that, like, if a police car is called to an individual's residence, it's the right number, at least?
As I spoke to you last time, right?
Yeah.
It will be very difficult because, I did bring that street here. In 1903 was one number.
And that street is?
That's the
Elwood? Yeah.
Yes. And in 1922, it was a different number. That was the real number, and that's the number we have in the assessor's maps.
Okay.
So there's two numbers there. So what happened is that I told some of the residents, and I also explained to you, if you change one number, it's going to affect everyone on the street, unless there's an agreement to change the number to the original numbers. The numbers they're using right now is more or less like AKA. It's,
Yeah,
it's not the number that
it's
we
a
have.
false number,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
So if number 7 changes, the next property has to change the number. That's if they all agree for us to change those numbers, and that's the problem we've been facing.
So we would have to, so I get it straight, is we would have to actually have everyone's consent on the street to change the numbers, because if one changes, it's going to affect
It's
all.
going to affect all of them.
Okay. So this is a major problem, and it's always been a major problem.
Yes.
And we're just, have we touched on this before? Rich, excuse me, Councilman, I'll get to you in one second.
We have brought this issue up, with the past mayors, and they've actually asked us to work diligently, and be able to talk to the residents. There was supposed to be a meeting with all city residents,
So citywide?
citywide, to address this issue because it's a concern to 911 and the post office.
Now, just a quick question, then I'm going to turn it over to the floor. So how do we fix it?
It's,
I mean, would we have to go citywide and then see which streets, how many streets are involved?
it's a lot of streets,
Is it the whole city?
yes.
Could be,
Okay.
yeah,
So
I
it's a
don't-
big task.
It's a big task.
huge.
All right.
I can make a couple comments here. I've been working with Mass GIS,
Okay.
and they're digitizing maps and statewide. And they're putting the, I think they call them locator ID numbers, which is the new 911 calls. And the new, as I understand it, locator ID numbers are latitude and longitude. And I do have all that in our system. We have the lat and longe of every property in Everett. So we're working towards the new 911 system, at least have that in place. As far as the assessor's office goes, only the assessor's office, whatever you tell us is the number, we're happy to change.
Sure.
There's no resistance from our end. And like I said, to try to mitigate as much as possible, if we were told to change a house number, we did it in the location field, but we did not change their mailing address to be sure that they'd be still getting the mail and not having that confusion. But I don't, from our standpoint, we're kind of just the middle person in that.
Okay, so basically the forefront would be engineering and building?
Yeah,
And then it would come to
'cause
you as a resolution
They
for you
notice
to-
us as to what the address is, and that's what we put.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the floor. Sorry, gentlemen, that I took a little bit of time, but Councilman Delasola.
That was one of my questions about the GIS system.
Yeah.
How long has this been, I know it's been going on for years, you're telling me, but right now, we're finally working on this, or we've been trying to resolve this situation for how
Well,
long?
no, it has always been a problem, and there has always been discrepancies, there's no question. We have, in our database, we did make several hundred changes of location IDs for street number. And that was predicated by the building departments going to the new system, and they're making sure everything matches. So if they found that our number was different than their number, they looked into it, and if they wanted that number changed, they gave us a list, and whatever they told us to change, we changed. Julius and the building department, and I'm not sure exactly, the who's of everything, they're the ones that tell us. We don't assign numbers anywhere. So that's from the assessing point of view, that's where we are. But we are working with this new 911 system with Mass GIS, and we do have their locator ID numbers on our system for each parcel. So that's getting at least addressed.
If someone comes up, let's say from Elmwood, and last year this happened to them, does it happen again the following year, even though they tell you, I'm not number 8, I'm number 13?
Well, if they
Does it
come
happen
into
again
a,
every year? I mean, if they come up last year and say, I'm number 13, not number 8, I don't know the whole,
if somebody
program
came
here?
into our office and said that, again, we'd look at the assessors map. If we see it's 8, we'd say, you're right, we'll change it. But if it's 13 or another number, we send them upstairs to talk to Julius or the building department to straighten it out, and if there's a change, they notice us.
so even though, I'm not gonna say that the homeowner is right on what the number is actually now, if you don't, instead of changing all the numbers, that number's not gonna be changed, even though she lives at 8, not number 13? You know what I'm trying to say? If they came last year and told you what they really are, and your map says something different, you don't change it?
No, because what's on the map is supposed to be the official city number. So I send them to the officials who assign the numbers.
And they're telling you, no, it has to stay the way it is.
Or, yes, change it, or it shouldn't be any of
Right.
those two numbers, it should be this number. You know, it's been a mix of everything.
Now, another topic, if that resident happened to call 911 from number 8 and you have number 13, when they make that call from their home, does it automatically tell you where the call's coming from? Or do they have to tell you? Would you have to know
I
that?
don't deal with 911, I have no
Now I
idea.
have to answer that, you know.
Does it come up automatically, number 8 is calling me?
I don't know.
I'm just worried about, God forbid, something happened at their house and,
Totally
says-
honest worry, and I don't doubt that for 10 minutes, but I'm not involved in that, so I don't have any idea what they say.
I think you're right, because an incident like that happened on Belmont Place, and when the 911 showed up there, and the ambulance, they were supposed to go to like number 6,
right.
and it happened that the lady lives on number 9, and what happens is that she died, you know. So
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, at that point, that was the time the city was thinking of changing its numbers, you know, and we were supposed to have with the council have a citywide, you know, discussion with the residents, so we can have these numbers up to date. But it has been, you know, it's been dragging since then. It's been an issue, and anytime somebody comes, you know, it's very difficult for us to change the numbers, because you see some people who have the deeds tied into the numbers that they have, you know, and they want to pass it on to their family. So
Right,
it
right.
becomes very difficult. So what I do advise them is to stay with the AKA numbers, you know, that it doesn't affect them unless they want to sell the property, you know.
Sounds like to me we have to lay this over for another meeting to get everybody who's involved up here at one time, and it seems like it's jumping.
Well, I know there's, for example, there's a street, I can't even think of the name of it, but it's a very short street, and you know how you're supposed to have odd numbers on one side and even numbers on the
Correct.
other side?
Washington Ave.
And it's like, on one side of the street, it's 2, 7, 8, 11, 15, all on
Right.
one side of the street, and the opposite side of the street is just as crazy. So, you know, this is a problem that's
Yeah, I
been
think-
going on a
We
long
did that on
time.
Washington Avenue, right?
Yeah.
And all the numbers there, wrong numbers. So the building department instructed engineering to send a letter to all the residents. We sent the letter to the residents, you know, get really angry. They all came to the city and they said, we're not changing these numbers. So at that point, you know, we said the best thing is to have a dialogue with council and residents, you know. to do this.
It's understandably a huge undertaking, and it's a real inconvenience to the homeowner who has had this one address for years, and all of a sudden, it's like moving. You know, you have to change everything, and it's a lot of work. So it's not easy for the public to make those changes, which is why there's so much resistance. Totally understandably.
I mean, my street, I have 6 houses on my street, I'm number 13. You know what I mean? So I understand what's going on. It sounds like to me, we have to get all the parties here involved.
Yeah, I believe, I know we're going to go in a direction, I think
Okay.
we're going to take it. Councilman Hanlon?
Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Councilman Hanlon?
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to throw a monkey wrench into the works here,
Thank you.
this type of an investigation was also done in like 90 or 91, I forget which year it was. We had people, and I'm not sure if you said the street, but is that like Russell Street you're talking about with those funny numbers? Yeah, and that was the gist of it starting. And what we found out in our research is that it's the post office that assigns the numbers to streets, the numbers to houses. And there's a number that goes every 20 feet, there's a number. So 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, that's got to be 40 feet. What they've also done is they've taken into consideration a very wide piece of property. So if the property started off at number 2, and according to them, number 4 and number 6 would have been in there, and then come the next house. Well, the next house would be numbered 8. So you would look at, well, one house is one house is 2, the next house is 8. How did that happen? The reason that happened is because there's 2 lots assigned by the post office,
Right.
2 20-foot parcels, if they ever were.
Right.
So what would happen if that someone came along and decided to say, I want to build a house on that parcel? The number is there for them, so where they would come in, and instead of saying, well, what are we going to put in between 2 and 4? Well, now it's what are we going to put in between 2 and 8, so you got 2 numbers to choose from.
Right.
They also show that if there happened to be a street that crossed one at an acute angle, like this, so that if you came to the end of this street, so let's say the number was 45, across the street should be 46, but across the street would be a street. So when you went across the street over here, the number over there would be way off, so the post office was allowed to skip or add a number on one side to make it so that if you came someplace, you're looking for number 47, you see 46, you say, oh, it's gotta be across the street. That's what the post office did. So my question is, is the post office still doing this?
No.
They're not doing it.
They're not doing it. What you just described, I have that map here.
Yeah.
Whereby the streets actually has the alphabet order numbers as it goes. So say if there's an empty lot, I skip one and then I go to the number that is in front of the property.
Uh-huh.
So that's how we actually do assign numbers.
But you do the same thing?
I do the same thing too.
Okay.
So I have the new numbers in the map, and I also have the old numbers, and those numbers are not actually done by me. I just follow what's there, And sometimes we put it in consideration, in terms of if it's going to be an empty lot, we can skip that number just in case if they build in future.
Okay.
You can have that number.
Yeah, that's the correct way it should be done, to do that, to make it even for everybody all around. I don't know exactly where the numbers are on the streets and everything, what's happening, but you should try to follow that kind of a guide so that we know, we can, makes the houses pop. Houses should be numbered 2, 4, 6, 8, unless there's large pieces of property in front of them. And that's the way they should be done. It should be done in accordance with across the street. If you have a church on one corner, and over here is 2, well, over here is 1, but it goes to 19. So you can't have 21 over here, when across the street it's only up to 9. So you'd have to do something with those odd numbers on the other side of the street, maybe start them off at 17 instead of starting them off at number 1, to make it,
Right.
Across the street.
And the whole street would have to go through all those address changes.
I know,
Yeah.
it's a headache and it's a problem, and a lot
Yeah.
of people are gonna be howling because you're changing the addresses that they've had for, my house is number 171. It would take me years to get rid of calling it number 142. I wouldn't know what to do, but that's a solution. It's a painful one, but that's the kind of a solution you'd have to come up with. Andy, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So I understand what you're saying, because the way it should be is you look at the official records of the town, and those should correspond with the registry of deeds, and you do have deeds, mortgages, everything else that's attached to that, and.
Well,
for-
really, though, that's not the legal description.
Right, it should be.
It's a reference, but it's not what
Exactly.
you hang your
But it
hat
should
on.
jive. It should, in a
It should.
perfect world, it would jive.
In perfect world,
And
you're
what
right.
happens is, over time, you have development and things happen, and human error gets involved, and
That's right.
we skip parcels, and then we zigzag all over the place. And it looks like you've done what you could on a piecemeal basis as people have come up. Best guess as to how many residences are still affected by this?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
It's a lot, yeah.
Okay.
Could be
And-
thousands.
Yeah, and you've got issues with regards to references to deeds and mortgages. They can always go AKA. You can fix anything like that on paper. The tough thing is when you start talking about the inconvenience to the residents. If they're not getting bills and they end up somewhere else and they don't get paid, then you get credit issues. But even more important than that, everyone's talked about it tonight, the public safety issues. So, your opinion, what's the first place to start?
I think my opinion is to have a dialogue with the residents, in terms of address change. Then we can take it from there. Then probably go to the legal counsel with the city to make a determination on, how to go with public safety and all that.
Yeah, and as one of my colleagues said, and as everyone can imagine, if you're told your number goes from 171 to 142, oh my goodness, you've got to go and change everything. But I guess that might be the only way to make everything flush. We'll have to check it out, but, all right, thank you, I appreciate it. I don't have any other questions.
Let me see here. I'm gonna make sure that we try to do something with this, because it's been going on for a little while, according to my colleague, since 91, was that, Mr. Hanlon? Was that since 91? Okay. So this has been an issue for, okay. So it's been an issue for a while. Maybe it's time to address it and basically see, I'd like to hear from 911 as well, to see how they go about, you know, responding to a house, if it's a different number with you, but it's not with them, and how that's been working out. I don't know how that works out now, because we're hearing about it just now, so I'd like to hear from them. So what I'd like to make a motion, Fred, to have this grant further time, ask building engineer, assessor's office, and 911 to return, and then we can actually see about possibly making a committee on it to actually take a look at it, because it is going to be a tasking program here. So,
Is there any other questions for these folks?
is there any other questions, councilors? Seeing none.
Excuse
customary thanks. Thank you for appearing tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant further time, invite the building, representative from the building department, the assessors department, and a representative from 911. Was there anyone else?
In engineering.
In engineering.
Motion made and seconded to grant further time, ask building, engineering, assessor's office, and 911 to come to the next government operations meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Just as a statement to the individuals that are here on a street and on this piece, we are going to grant further time. We are actually going to look into this, and we're going to come up with some type of solution. So I thank you for getting us involved, we'll say, and having us make this come up on the calendar so that we can address it. Thank you very much. Please read the next item, or revert back to the original. Revert back to the original order. Thank you.
All right, item number 1. This is a resolution up by Councilors Michael McLaughlin, Richard Delasola, and John Hill to look into the cost of having both lighting and cameras along the pipe. That's
Council?
Like to invite Chief Mazie up, please.
Council, Chief, could you come up before us? Just state your name again. Sure. And title.
Good evening, Stephen Mazie, Chief of Police for the city.
Chief, good evening.
Kevin O'Donnell, Chief of Staff.
Thank you for appearing. Counselor?
We know the issues we had down the bike path there, down towards the village area. The lighting, I understand it could be an expensive adventure for us, our cameras, but have you done anything since this came up, or any plans of the crews are going down there, going down the bike path, you know, mostly at night, and just kind of keep everybody in their toes?
All right, so just quick background. Obviously, we had a violent crime occurred late night down there. There's been an arrest made in the case, just so you know, if you're not aware. This time of year, the bike path at nighttime is not a heavily populated area or a hangout. We don't spend normally a lot of resources this time of year down there. We're usually in the warmer months. It becomes a much more traveled area is when we do expend a lot of resources down there. So we have looked into the lighting. I believe the city's putting in capital planning. There are some areas where there's less ambient lighting from the adjacent neighborhoods that we could try to, you know, enhance the lighting a little bit. So that's being planned. Any lighting is obviously helpful. Will you be able to, I mean, I have no idea offhand what the costs are, but I think, you know, any lighting we can get up to add to at least the darker voids will be a plus. The bike trail itself is not heavily used at nighttime. It's obviously heavily used in the morning, daytime hours. I mean, there's people actually commuting to work on it. You know, there's mothers with kids in baby strollers, there's joggers, there's dog walkers, which is great. And the more people that do use it, over time, the less problems we'll have overall. And there's some information out there, studies on converted railroad beds to that fact. So that's a good thing.
What about, what just came up to my mind was like a box that someone could, we could install there, like goes right to the police station.
Like the emergency 911 boxes.
Yes, somewhere on the bike path, if there's one, if Everett and Malden kind of get together on it, 'cause
Yeah.
they, you know.
I mean, those are always nice. You see them on college campuses a
Yes,
lot.
yes.
Yes, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I don't know where we would put it offhand at this moment.
Correct. I
But-
think we have to look in the city is even clearing the edges of the bike paths. Because,
Sure.
you know, the weeds could be 10 feet high sometimes, and, you know, people could hide in the bushes. If it's cleared out, it might kind of
Yeah,
make it a little more
becomes
open
a
of an
bigger
area.
problem. I mean, the overbrush, or overgrown brush is a bigger problem in the warmer months.
Correct,
I mean, now
which
you
that'll
get-
be,
now
the
you
city would
problem
get
this time
involved.
of year.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other question? Councilman Hamlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same thing we're interested in, Chief, is just the safety down there, and,
Sure.
you know, we're not the ones to design the safety. You know,
Yep.
it's folks like yourself and the mayor's chief of staff. I mean, they get together, they're the ones that design it. What we're asking for is some sort of a plan to be presented so we can take a look at it. And even if we don't like it, it would still be a plan, and it would probably be carried out, but something that we know is going forward, so that we can say, yeah, look, they're really doing something on this, you know. And I agree with you, I don't think I'd even like to walk through it at nighttime down there. It's very dark and it's very tough to go through, you know.
Well, it's a safe area, but you don't see a lot of people walking down there
Right.
midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
or doing anything down there. Summer months, yeah, we get some kids go where there's no adults. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
They go to places, they can hide out, hang out. As you know, I mean, I grew up in the same neighborhood. We ran around the tracks or the marsh and all over that area, so. But it is safe. So you will see, I know there's plans to look at lighting and the cost of it. It'll, I believe, be in the capital improvement, and so I think that's gonna come before you at some point in the future.
Do we know if anything is planned? I mean, you know, really put,
The research, yes,
so
there's-
something really is
there's,
planned for capital improvement?
yep.
Okay, okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Any other questions? I have one from the chair. So during the summer months, we're going to be beefing up patrols in
Yes.
that area?
Yes, we normally do, and we will be.
I mean, obviously, there was 3 gentlemen that ended up taking some interest down there, and it was, you know, a bad result, so, you know.
I wouldn't say that, so without getting into specifics, they went for a walk and ended up in an isolated area is what they did, by design.
Yeah. It was sort of like a setup down the
But
road.
normally, you know, come springtime, summer, you know, into the early fall, we're obviously down there on a regular basis anyways. I mean, we're going by the 7-acre park. and then
So
you-
it's relatively safe during the summer months if someone wants to go
It
out
is.
jogging
Well,
and
again,
stuff like
again,
that?
there's people, the good thing is there's people using it, so the
Sure.
more people use it, especially adults, it's been positive. I can tell you, crime statistic-wise, we're not getting any criminal offenses down there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to put a bad light on the bike path, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? So
Yeah,
that's
there's
why I
no
want to
need to
hear
at this point.
that. All right, so there is a plan in play, and we have capital improvement coming our way for it.
Correct.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, excuse the customary thanks. Thank you very much for appearing.
If we may, Mr. Chairman, we could please ask the guests just to stay there, because there are a
Sure.
couple more pieces that they're,
We have a couple more pieces, so. On the motion?
We'll lay this on the table until we come up with a plan.
You want grant further time?
Yes, further time on this.
For what, up to the next meeting? Capital plan, will-
Probably should do a month at least.
you want to, we should have something in April on the capital plan unless you want to, it's up to you.
Could we lay it over till,
April?
say, the first meeting in May?
Yeah.
At least we'll have a plan and see what's in the budget for that. Thank you.
Lay over to the first meeting of May. Motion made to lay this over to the first meeting in May. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read
Right,
the next
item
one.
number
Thank
2
you.
is a resolution up by Council Frank Capone that the mayor and the police chief consider opportunities to increase police visibility throughout the city, such as a substation in the squares.
Councilman Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you two, I guess. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. The one thing that you hear constantly, first of all, it's a never-ending job. That I know. And everything costs money. But the one thing I hear over and over again from residents is, safety. It's premium for all of us. Visibility, even if nothing else is happening, seeing uniforms, walking by, driving by, you feel safer. We want to provide safe streets for our community. I know you do a good job with it. One thing you hear over and over again are substations. I don't know what kind of costs are involved with that, if it's feasible. I know at one point in time, we had offices on bikes. I don't know if we're still doing that in the summer months, or if we got away from that, and if so, why. The bottom line is, any visibility that could be increased would help make people feel safer, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Anything you could do to address that, speak to that, I would appreciate.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody, I talk to the same people you guys talk to. Everyone wants a police officer on the street, in their neighborhood park, around their school, the downtown districts. I get it. It's nice to see them. We try to do our best to maintain visibility. We do, a lot of the policing and how we police is based on, we've become more data-driven. And what I mean by that is we put officers in areas where we think we have more problems based on real empirical data. And I did bring, I know at some point after this agenda, I was having 2 crime analysts with me tonight, if any other additional questions come up. So we try to go where we're really needed to address problems. And for the most part, come to the warmer months, obviously people get out more. They're gonna walk around out of cars more. The bicycle patrols will be out more. We did get away a little bit on the bikes, only because it was more of a financial issue. We had an aging fleet, and we're starting to replace them right now. So we're gearing up for this spring and summer. You will see more. As far as substations, I mean, when you start talking substations, that's a strategy where you need a police presence in a particular neighborhood that, for some reason, you have a hard time maintaining a presence there, or you need a presence there for some reason. I mean, average 3.6 square miles. For the most part, we get around pretty quick, or we already have officers assigned in the 2 downtown areas on a regular basis, both at daytime and at nighttime. The one area that does concern us going forward is obviously Lower Broadway, because of the obviously major development going down there, the volume of people that will be down there. That's something that I know we've been talking about, and to have officers working, potentially out of someplace. And those are preliminary discussions. There's no set plans. But, we try to get out there. We be as proactive as possible. You will see we do a lot of traffic enforcement, again, in areas based on data where we need to be. We're doing a lot of proactive investigations in terms of targeting people in neighborhoods who are up to no good, people who are selling drugs, who are involved in gang activity, committing violent crimes, and so on. And that's...
Okay. All right, thank you. In terms of number of officers, how many do we have that are actively out in the street on a daily basis?
So, I mean, the department has 99 sworn officers in the department right now. Shifts are broken up. We're heaviest on our day platoons and our eve platoons, and then we get a little lighter on the late night platoons. We do have overlapping shifts as well, so like between 9 at night and 2 in the morning, you have 2 shifts overlap where there's a lot of police officers on the street during that time. You could have anywhere from 10 to 14, 15 officers on the street.
Okay.
At that time period.
And how does the play between weekend and during the week, is one heavier than the other, or you kind of treat them consistent?
I mean, it depends on the year. Also, other factors taken into consideration, how, people get injured, people are sick long-term, short-term, people go on vacations. Obviously, during the warmer months, people start taking vacation time. I mean, you have a tendency to, and of course, when it's 85 degrees out and it's beautiful weather, how many people do you think want to really come in to work extra? I mean, they'll do it, but I'm just saying it's not the top priority for individual individuals. And so, you know, we're looking at in the future of making sure we replace and plan for the replacements to attrition. We know we have people that have to retire at some point in the next few years. We haven't kind of planned out who, there's some of them are coming up on mandatory retirement. So we're trying to plan and stay ahead of that as well.
Okay. And for the most part, cruises, I know we try to spread out, do what we can, want to maximize the manpower. Cruises, are they usually individuals? Do we ever have a time we've got
Single-man
multiple?
cars, and during certain times of day, there's two-man units.
Okay.
So it depends on what time of day you're talking. Cruises are always been a problem. Right now, we're short-handed. You know, when we went to Dodge Chargers a few years back, it was a bad, obviously it was a bad experiment. The Chargers didn't hold up. They were.
Yeah, I remember, it just didn't pan out.
Riddled with problems, and we lost a lot of cars that we would normally have had in our fleet, so that set us back a little bit. And, I mean, going forward in this new budget, we are gonna be looking to upgrade and get more than normal, because we get short-handed a lot.
And I know that you do your best and you do a good job with everything, and you read the papers, you see everything that's going on, the gang activity, everything else. We just want to make sure people understand that they're in a safe community. The police department is doing all that they can. Obviously, you know what's going on. You have the pulse in the city, and you're setting up bodies where they need to be.
Correct. I mean, I'd be more concerned, especially from your perspective, if you saw no action being taken by law enforcement, or we weren't working with our partners from other local agencies of the state and the federal authorities, I'd be more concerned. But we're actively pursuing cases on people who are potentially going to commit harm in our community. You've seen some of the recent cases. There's more to come. We're constantly doing investigations to remove people who are here for the wrong reasons.
Great. I have no other questions. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I asked that you take item number 10. He had mentioned the analysts. That would be the next piece, but.
And on that piece, I would refer it back to, I recommend we refer it back to
Okay.
sponsor.
If you could just stay there, we're
Yep.
going to take the other piece out and then introduce the analysts as
Sure.
well. Let me see here. So the motion made to refer back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You have done so. Could we-
I move we suspend the rules and take item number 10.
Motion made to suspend the rules and take item number 10. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You have done so. Please read item number 10.
All right, item number 10. This is a resolution up by Councilors Anthony DePiero, Richard Delasola, and Michael McLaughlin. The ECTV consider running a message board alerting the residents of a number of recent car break-ins, specifically Springfield Avenue area, so residents can be aware and take precaution.
Freddie, invite the analysts up.
If we could please have the analyst before us as well.
If you could, just state your name for the record and your job title.
Sure. Melissa Trapas, Senior Crime Analyst for City of Everett.
Thank you. And is there a
Laura,
chief?
yeah, Laura's here.
Okay.
Come right over here, Laura.
If you could just state your name and title.
It's not on. Hit the switch. There you go.
Green is
Laura
good.
Sunshine, crime analyst.
Thank you. Councilman Delasola?
Yes, I know we've had a lot of break-ins recently, all around Everett, but it seems to be confined to this Springfield, down off of Elm Street, which is kind of my neighborhood. And we had a few, I don't know if you're familiar with, a few of the residents were up last week. And they have cameras in their houses, shows them breaking in. Yeah, some of the cars are unlocked, but still, you shouldn't be worried about locking your car. I know it's a whole different world out there now, but her biggest complaint was she didn't see any patrols going by her area in the months of all these break-ins. I know we had an arrest down there, a couple of arrests, which was great, but I know there's always more than one or two people doing this. Just like your input on what you know since the last meeting and information you can give to listeners.
Sure. I'm going to let these two ladies, I'll let Melissa jump in after me, but we're obviously aware of the breaks. These two ladies know more about what's going on, and they're crunching data every day on crime, and other incidents or issues in the community, and, they take all this data and they, push it out to our offices, not only our own people, but they're also pushing out this information to our regional partners, because a lot of the problems we have are regional in nature. For example, in the neighborhood you're talking about, many times we have people across border type, crime, groups. They'll come, Chelsea, Revere will come over, commit some car breaks, and, unfortunately, every people will go over to Chelsea, and vice versa. So those issues go on regularly. Melissa will give you some of the data, from that neighborhood. We have made some arrests. We've also stopped some people and tried to ID, some people that are out late night. Again, I know everyone wants to see an officer. We patrol the neighborhoods, that we're supposed to be in, and, I know people might not always see it, but, we're out there and we're trying to make an extra effort, to make sure people feel better in that particular neighborhood right now. So Melissa, you wanna give them some of the, at least an overview of what we've seen in the last couple of months, and, when you talk about locked cars and unlocked cars, there's some concerning patterns. As a matter of fact, about 2 hours ago, I was downstairs making a public service announcement, to address the unlocked car issue is a big problem. I know you say you shouldn't have to do it, but, I don't leave my car unlocked.
Right,
I wouldn't leave
right.
my house doors unlocked. I wouldn't leave anything unlocked. I don't leave this unlocked. It's just, that's the world, we live in today.
Correct,
So,
correct.
Melissa?
Sure. First off, I'd like to point out that everything that we work with is stuff that's reported. If something's happening on your property to your motor vehicle and you don't report it to the police, it's a piece of the puzzle that we don't have. And it makes our job a little bit harder to sort of map those things and put them together. But we have, at our discretion, several different technologies and resources that not only allow us to look at what's happening in the city of Everett, but also to look at what's going on in the regional communities and our neighboring cities in a real-time manner. So it's really important for us to know each and every incident that happens here. Even if your car door was just opened and nothing was taken, that's still a point of information and a data point that we can use to look at what's going on in a larger picture. We did make an arrest on the one of the Springville Ave motor vehicle vanities. That is correct. And since that arrest, there was one more incident where 3 parties were seen walking down the street. But since then, there has been no more motor vehicle breaks in that area. Is there any other questions?
We give them some feedback on the, so that 2-month period, or it was about
Yeah, so
over a
we,
2-month period,
yeah,
39?
so there were, I forget how many actual reports, but over the course of the reports, there were 39 motor vehicles that were reported to our department as being broken into, and we look at every single one of those cases, and 29 of those 39 were motor vehicles that were left unlocked. And I believe that greater than 80% of those motor vehicles were also in people's driveways. So pretty much that tells you what people are doing. They're going into the driveway where it's safer, it's off the street, just checking your door handle and walking on by, and they find it open, they're gonna go in.
Those are citywide numbers.
Yes.
Those were citywide numbers. So over a
Citywide.
2-month period, 39 total car breaks citywide, but 29 left the doors unlocked.
The 2 that were arrested, or one that was arrested,
Yeah,
I don't need any names, but were they Everett residents?
yes.
They were.
Counsel, that's one issue too. So we arrest an individual for committing offenses like that. He lives in a neighborhood.
Correct.
He's not, we can't remove, he'll be removed from the neighborhood if he gets incarcerated, but basically, once he makes bail, he gets his court dates, he's going back to wherever he lives.
Correct.
which
That's
could
my
be the
next-
same
that was my
exact
next
neighborhood.
question.
So we know that, and obviously we have to, now that people, when they develop, create patterns and histories, those are people we try to keep tabs on.
Keep an eye on them,
Yeah.
correct. At least now
But
you know
I
where
can't,
it
it's not like, we arrest them and then they're gone from the community. No, we usually arrest them, they're usually coming back, especially for these types of crimes, they're not disappearing that quick in the community.
And at that point, you know whoever the individual is, you know where he lives.
True.
And you can patrol that area, and
It's-
it's not that simple.
It's not that simple.
Correct.
Sure. It's not that, I wish it was that simple.
There'd be
but
no
it's not.
crime in Everett if that was it.
It's not that simple. No, we do keep tabs and track of those types of things, but I wish it was that easy. But we know who a lot of these individuals are, broken up by different crimes. And, people run the gamut too, though. Someone who could be, doing car breaks because he's got an addiction problem, that doesn't mean he could be doing stick-ups, he could be doing others, he
Correct.
could be selling drugs. They run the gamut, some of these folks.
this is just one step. Like I said, another piece on here was to put on ECTV and alert the neighbors. Maybe if they're watching TV, they'll see that the break-ins are happening. Like I said, they might not know about it. They will lock their doors. Will that stop them? I'm not sure, but it'll prevent half of them, let's
Well,
say.
at least, yeah, and one thing we found, and Melissa will jump in a second, you know, ECTV's a good way to pump out some information. Social media has been the way to go. We post a lot, I don't know if anybody follows us on Facebook, but we put a lot of information out,
Correct.
trying to educate the public, inform the public. And it's, you know, there's other ways people can find out about crime, and I'll let her talk about that.
Yeah, 5 times a week, I dump all of our crime data to raidsonline.com. It's a free access site, and you can go in and sign up, get an alert for an address or a part of the city that you're interested in. But pretty much it'll show you all of the motor vehicle breaks, you know, the robberies, that sort of stuff that happens in the city. It offsets it by 2 or 3 houses just to protect people's identity, but you can certainly get a general sense, and you can play with the system. It's great for people who are really interested in what's going on in the city, or maybe you're thinking about moving to Everett. You can do time ranges, you can show crimes in motion, and it's a free resource. And again,
And the
it's
name of that again, please?
Raids Online,
Could you just spell it out for us?
RAIDSONLINE.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Spelling was not my foresight. I'm more of a numbers and
Oh, that was a good
researcher
one.
kind of person, but
And that link's right on our website?
it is certainly right on our website, and certainly it's on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah, we have the viewing audience tonight, so that
Great.
was helpful. That's why I wanted it
Yep,
spelled out.
and there's
so they could
also,
just
if
go
you
look.
want to talk a little bit about the My Police app, Chief?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm-
So there's also a thing called
My
My
PD.
PD app, and it's basically an app for, I believe you can get it on both Android
Yes.
and Apple phones. It's a free download. If you go to My PD app and put in the city you're interested in, for our case, Everett, we pay for this service, but you can download that app, and you can find out what's going on in the city, but also its connection to the police department. So if you wanted to send some information on a crime or something going on in your neighborhood, there's some anonymous links on there as well. It's just a way we're trying to find ways to stay connected with people in the community as well.
Thank you.
All set?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, councils? I have one from the chair.
Sure.
Would you feel comfortable naming the hot sites or the hot spots in Everett? And would you feel comfortable putting that out there to the public for ECTV purposes, or would you want to keep it kind of concealed?
When we say hot spots, I mean, our hot spots, for example, you know, with our strategy called DDAX, which is our data-driven approaches to crime and traffic safety, we're basically putting offices, and right now we have 2 zones, active zones in the city that we put people. It's no secret because they're areas that we're the most visible in. And one of them's a 0.6 of a mile corridor between Glendale Square and Everett Square, to be honest with you. It's a high-volume traffic area.
You also have cameras during
We have
these sections?
cameras as
and
well.
stuff? Okay.
But the reason we're in that zone, it's because of the high volume of traffic and the crashes and some of the crime categories that take place. Keep in mind, you're talking, when you add it up, there's probably 6 or 7 banks in there. There's a number of retail, smaller mom and pops. There's a high volume of residential apartments or large buildings and so on. So there's a lot of people, a lot of cars. And we looked at data, you know, back a few years ago. Melissa was reviewing the data and said, hey, we basically get good bang for our buck if we put officers in these areas. So we do a lot of traffic enforcement in that 0.6 of a mile. We also have our officers park, walk around, you know, go out and shoot the breeze with people, stop in a lot of the small mom and pop stores and so on. There's another area, it's shape, design-wise, a little bit different. It's a little area along the Chelsea line, down off of Nichols Street. Actually, there's the new zone that runs from the Chelsea
Right, it's Ferry.
border to Ferry Street in that Nichols Street type area down there. To Malden Street. And that's different because that's more residential, but it's a border with Chelsea. Again, some of the cross-border crime issues like car breaks. We had a lone mom and pop store right on the border that got hit with late-night robberies. Little things like, you know, we talked to the owner about it closing a little earlier, which he did, and helped curtail the problems. And then that combined with a heavy police presence, I don't think
He's not been
he's
hit.
never been robbed. It's been a long time now.
Oh, yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah, it's been a year. I mean, it's been a while.
Was it armed robbery?
Yes.
Or
I
is
think
it-
he had a string of them. I think there was
Really?
a string of them, 3 in a short period of time. And that was over a year and a half ago, and he hasn't been hit since.
So, I mean, do you feel that we should be putting this on ECTV?
I don't know if it, I mean, I don't know if it needs to be on ECTV, because it's not, you know, if there was a high concentration in a very small, both these areas I just mentioned to you, they're pretty large.
Yeah,
I mean.
it's sort of like a buffer zone
So
before,
people are walking up and
Chelsea.
down Broadway all the time, they're not really noticing anything. We're noticing certain things because they're behind the scenes looking at a bunch of data points. Your average person could walk up and down and not see anything. Behind the scenes, though, we're collecting information, remember, 24 hours a day, and that's why
Yeah.
we're there. But there's no, so I guess to answer your question, there's no bad neighborhood. There's no section of the city where we say, wow, this, you know, things are real bad here. We really don't have that. I mean, if we showed you the car brakes, for example, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple dots here, there's a couple over here.
Right,
I mean,
and that DDAX zone two is historically a slightly hotter or heavier part for the motor vehicle car brakes, but that's why we're there.
Correct.
you know.
Okay, so just maybe to the sponsor, maybe we should put this raidsonline.com and then PD app out so that the public can actually jump in on that type of stuff and take a look
Yeah,
that way.
And I'm
we're
happy
always looking
to,
at- go.
yeah, and I'm happy to share that information with you. And it's also been listed every year consecutively in the annual report that I produce, which can be found on our police department's website.
Okay.
So there's,
And Chief, another question, sorry to interrupt, but another question for you, Chief. Do you still have the, like, the crime watch meetings and stuff like that on Tuesday? I know,
No, you know what happened? We became, we put ourselves out of business. We became so successful at getting information out via other means. People don't come to us anymore to
They
show
don't want
us.
to come in.
They
sit in
don't want,
there
they
anymore.
don't need to.
Okay.
They get access to so much information now that there's no reason to come to us. I mean, we have people who reach out to us who have an issue in a neighborhood.
Sure.
Obviously, we're gonna help them, but those monthly meetings, we kinda did ourselves in by, these other tools that we've been talking about.
All right, so that might be just as a suggestion to the sponsor. Your pleasure on the piece?
Send it back to sponsor.
All right. Excuse customary thanks, thank you for appearing tonight.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
have a
All the
great night.
information.
Motion made and seconded to refer this item back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, you have done so. Please revert back to the regular order of business.
Item number 3. This is a resolution up by Council Frank Capone, that a representative of the Assessor's Office be here to discuss the current tax classification.
Councilor Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you could please have the assessor before us.
Thank you for appearing again.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your patience.
Not at all.
I know that we briefly spoke on this back and forth with email. My concern is, I want to try to think of possibilities in order, well, I know at one point in time, we had industrial, commercial, and residential. And I think your response was the statute doesn't really set out for industrial?
We have 5 classifications.
Okay.
They're residential, open space, which the city does not have, commercial, industrial, and personal property.
Okay.
Those are your 5 classes.
All right. And at one point in time, there was a differential in the rate.
There
between
is.
commercial and industrial.
No,
I thought that there was, no?
no, never.
Well, have we ever looked into something like that?
It's illegal. You can't.
You can't?
No.
You can't distinguish between light commercial and heavy commercial?
No,
So commercial is commercial regardless?
correct.
Okay, so regardless if it's a sole proprietor versus a multi-million-dollar corporation, that you can't value properties differently?
Well, with their value,
Yeah,
they're valued as they're used. So if it's a high-class office space, it's going to be valued as high-class office space. If it's a Class B office space like you have on Broadway with the retail on bottom and the old offices on top, that's a whole different value because they're not as marketable as a Class A office space. So whatever the current market is for any type of property, residential, commercial, industrial, anything, we are commanded to reflect that. The tax rate is a whole different animal. That you have historically chosen to give as much tax reduction as possible to the residents,
Correct.
and that increases the commercial, industrial, and personal property rate. But the three classes share the same rate.
Okay. So in terms of, I know that there's different ways to evaluate whether you go the income route or assessment of property.
Well-
Everything we do is assessment of property, fair market value of property.
Yes,
Correct?
and
We
we
don't
have
have
to-
any interaction with different valuations.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
So how do we decide which one to go with regards to assessing a
Well,
property?
it's just like you would with any appraisal. When we're doing, we're preparing the roll for taxation, we're under what's called a mass appraisal system, which is different than fee appraisal because you're not appraising one piece of property, you're appraising thousands of pieces of property. So we're under strict Department of Revenue guidelines as to how we approach those properties through mass appraisal. When someone challenges that appraisal, if we end up going to appellate tax court, now we're into fee appraisal.
Okay. And that's really the course of action that happens. That's the way it rolls out.
That's the way it rolls out.
Okay.
If someone wants to challenge the value, they have every right to, and we're happy to look into it.
Okay.
If the board determines there should be an abatement, that is thus voted for and processed. If the board denies it, either way, if the taxpayer is not happy with that decision, they have a right to go to appellate tax court. And then we have a hearing in
Sure.
appellate tax court.
Okay. And now, do you have, if you have it handy, great. If not, you can always get it to me, the regulation that sets out how we structure tax rate so that we can't break it out?
I sent it to you.
Yeah, okay. Then
And I
that's-
gave every member of council one.
Okay, very good. So, yeah, that's the stuff we don't see behind the scenes, so
You're-
we just
you're-
want to get a better understanding
You're
of the process.
actually, from your question, I got the sense that you're concerned with the smaller
Yeah,
commercial.
and I know that we had talked about
And
the.
industrial.
Yeah, we talked about
But-
the 10,000 exemption.
Right.
For-
We have, the council voted many years ago to not tax any personal property account that has a value of less than 10,000. And it is a tremendous, we have to track at least 1,500 personal property accounts. Of the 1,500 personal property accounts, we only tax about 350.
Okay.
All the rest are exempt because they're less than
Under the
$10,000.
yeah.
So that's a direct break to the small business person.
Yeah. And I know it's not a huge number, but it's a number all the same. You know,
Right.
If you break on 10,000, you're looking at 390 some odd dollars. So my concern is, you're right, the concern was you want to have a vibrant business community, and you look at it, and you want to see if there's some way to offset the differences, because even though the rate is the same for everyone, it just doesn't seem fair somehow that, like, a mom and pop operation should be paying same rate level as a larger organization.
Right, but because of the big value differences, their bills are
Yeah, there should be
thousands and
quite different.
thousands
Yeah.
apart from each
Yeah.
other. So it is shaking out that way.
Yeah.
And the other piece of good news is, as the city is growing tremendously, and with the additional values, you're going to see, you're going to continually see that commercial rate drop.
Okay.
It dropped this year.
Yeah, it did a little, and the thing is you need a healthy balance between
Right.
residential and commercial. You can't have all one or the other, and you want to have the services for residents. The only way to do that is you have to make it enticing for business to open here, and a lower tax rate would absolutely do that.
Right,
that's
and
kind of
we
the
are,
things we're looking
we
at,
are
so.
going that goal.
Good.
And
good.
going that road.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your
You're very
time. I don't
welcome.
have any other questions.
Any other questions, council? Seeing none, excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for
You're
appearing.
very welcome.
Pleasure on the peace.
I refer back to sponsor.
Motion made and seconded to refer back to sponsor. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 4.
Item number 4, this is a resolution offered by Council Richard Delasola, Michael McLaughlin, to get an update on the Waters Ave project.
Councilman Del Solo?
I'd like to invite the city engineer up, please.
Could we invite the city engineer? If you could just state your name and title for the record.
My name is Bill O'Rourke. I'm the Director of Engineering. Director of Engineering. I'd like to differentiate if I could. Julius O'Fury is the city engineer. I've been brought in as the Director of Engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Just so everybody knows, myself and my colleague, Councilman McLaughlin, met Bill and the manager and the owners of Waters Ave Tuesday, I think it was, Tuesday morning. Spent 2 or 3 hours talking to them out in the street. Explained about different phases that are going on down there. I'll let Bill, he could describe it better than I can, but he gave us a tour of the whole building. It's beautiful inside. They did a great job. We do have concerns that are going on right now. Bill explained that. We do have concerns on the next phase that's gonna be going on the Waters Ave. There's a building down there now. They wanna put 33 units. We're very concerned about that one, but I'll let Bill explain what we talked about Tuesday morning.
So I met the 2 councilors and the general contractor at the site, the intersection of Elton and Tremont Street. We've had some flooding issues there for quite some time. Back in the 60s, they installed a 30-inch corrugated metal pipe into what's known as the South Creek, which drains a large area of the city of Everett into the Malden River. When the developer approached the city and proposed his development, he assumed that that pipe would still be intact, and he designed his drainage tie-in to that pipe. Well, corrugated metal over a period of time deteriorates. In my experience, 50 years is about the life of a corrugated metal pipe, and 1960 or so till about right now, about 50, 55 years have expired, and that pipe I couldn't find when I went looking for it this past summer. I believe it's deteriorated, filled in, collapsed, doesn't exist anymore. That is why we're experiencing significant flooding at that intersection. Many years back, I don't know how many, the city put a bypass pipe in to short-circuit flooding to the North Creek. This is a short-circuit pipe, so all the water from that intersection that surcharges simply bypasses that intersection and goes up to the Northern Creek discharge, okay? It's a small pipe, and when we have flooding in the area, when we have significant storms like we had on September 30th, 4 inches of rainfall in a 4-hour period, that pipe cannot handle the flow. So flooding takes place, and the flooding dissipates when that smaller capacity pipe catches up with the flooding, when the rain stops and the flooding catches up. So what we're doing is a drainage project to recreate the South Creek. Parkside Development contractor is performing the first 2 phases of that drainage project. The first 2 phases includes installation of a 30-inch pipe to the corner of his building, and phase 2 includes installation of a 48-inch pipe underneath, from the corner of the building all the way to Air Force Road, getting underneath an Algonquin gas main. It is the intention of the city to pick up the third phase of the project, which will be a 48-inch pipe piped in the location of the 30-inch corrugated metal pipe that we can't find, and recreation of the South Creek. We hope to put this on the 2017 CIP and get funding through you people for the design and construction. We have a proposal before us for about $140,000 with a consultant to perform design services on phase 3. And then construction, we estimate at about $1.2 to $1.4 million. Hopefully, the time for this Phase 3 design and construction will go well. We have to go through a permitting process where we rip through a wetland area and recreate a trapezoidal drainage channel. And we need buy-in from DEP and EPA to do this. So that is the solution to the drainage flooding at this intersection that we've had for so many years.
Thank you. This is something many of us have concerns of. We almost have to try to speed this up for Phase 3, because this is just gonna keep creating until we get this Phase 3 completed in the Waters Ave area. I know we talked about, just so the residents know, it's kind of a little bit off the subject of the water, but in 2 weeks, they were telling us that will all be cleaned up. The frontage, the fence will be down, they'll open the sidewalks up. It'll be cleaned up within a few weeks of the chain link fence not being in the street. I just want the neighbors to know the process is being done, and it's getting completed pretty quickly at this stage in the wintertime. The weather's been great down there for us. But the biggest issue is Phase 3 got to go pretty quick so this doesn't happen again down on Waters Ave. Thank you, I'm all set.
Okay, Councilman Capone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, thank you for being here. Couple of quick questions. How many units are actually in that project?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not involved with the, please.
It was 160.
160. And I don't know if you can speak this or not, but people have all kinds of questions, and sometimes they have questions or they have opinions that aren't backed up with what the facts are. But there seems to be a mindset that the city has picked up the cost of connecting the service line to the city, or did the developer do that? Do you know?
I don't understand the question. When you refer to service line, what service line are you talking about?
Water service line, connecting into the main, the city's main. That's usually the developer's responsibility, right?
I'm not sure of the agreement that took place between the developer and the city. I came in to work as director in August. This is an agreement that took place.
Yeah, then that's fine. No, I don't
Right,
want to ask
right.
anything that you couldn't speak to. So there's just people had asked, and I said, well, we're here, we can ask about it. With regards to Phase 3, if you could just re-explain that to me. It's a 48-inch pipe, and where is it, from where to where, and what are we looking to do?
Right. It would be a 48-inch pipe, and it would be from the center of Air Force Road to the edge of the wetland area alongside, is it Boston Coach and the old GE site? The thought would be to minimize the length of that pipe and recreate an open channel for as long as we can, to perhaps make it another wetland area. We could extend the pipe further, but that would not allow for as many wetlands, and we like to value wetlands as much as we can. At least DEP and EPA favor that. So we'll see the length of that pipe as we get into the permitting process and how long they allow it, and we'll certainly work with those regulatory bodies to figure that out.
Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you very much.
Councilman Hanlon?
Just one quick question on what you just said. That pipe would be about 100 yards long, currently from Air Force Road to the edge of the creek?
Perhaps. I don't have a
But where I think
scaled
where
map
it
in
is-
front of me, but it could be 300 feet long, yes.
Pretty close to where the gas pumps are for the automobile rental place.
I'm not,
If you're looking at
I don't
the
know where those
building-
pumps are, but perhaps 300 feet is accurate, yes.
Yeah, walk to the right, okay. If I, to make sure I was in the right
Right.
neighborhood.
Are you all set, Council? I have a question I have two questions, possibly three, from the chair. What is the cost of the third phase?
Right now, we estimate $1.2 to $1.4 million. That's a rough estimate. We haven't designed it yet, and we have not put real numbers on that, but it's an estimate at this time.
Okay. And that's going to be cost incurred to the city, correct?
Correct.
That would be Phase 3, that's what you spoke of. You had testified before, I believe it was on the same project, and mentioned that before to us, so there's been no movement on that as of yet.
We've had discussions, and we had decided to put it on the CIP for 2017. So
it's gonna
hopefully if we get hopefully get it passed, then we can potentially start work towards the end of the summer.
Okay, now, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 is going to be, you represent the city, I know that.
Right.
Because you're the director here. But also, who represents the company? Because we asked for them to come before us, the sponsor did, and they
Fair
chose
question.
not to.
It's a fair question. We spent a couple of hours out there discussing in depth all of these issues, and we seem to have satisfied all the questions of the counselors. And at that time, the question was posed to them, is it necessary for us to show up to this meeting? And the answer was no, we're satisfied. In fact, the counselors had said, I don't need to show up at this meeting, but as a courtesy to the rest of you, I wanted to show up.
Fair enough, thank you. Also, let's see here. There's an additional 33 units or 30 units or something like that was being discussed. Is that actually going to go in there or no?
Phase 2?
Units. There's 160 units in there now.
Yes.
Will there be an additional 33 going in?
Across the street there.
Oh,
Sorry to-
well, I've
Sorry.
looked at a preliminary concept plan across Waters Ave of an additional 33 units. I've seen a concept plan. I don't know if it's going to proceed or not, but they're thinking of coming to us and proposing it.
Okay, and when they propose this, and if we accept that, will we have the proper drainage at that time with the repairs that we're doing now? Or will we need?
I can only
additional?
hope we would.
Okay.
I can only hope we would.
Because it's at 1.2 to 1.4 for third phase to the city of Everett, correct?
Correct.
Now, what's phase 1 and what's phase 2? Can you speak on that? To what the cost would
I
be?
don't know the exact numbers that the contractor or the developer is spending on phase 1 and phase 2. My understanding is we had an agreement where they set aside $300,000 for work to construct a drainage system that would alleviate drainage for both themselves and the city.
Because a reason why I'm asking, Director, is because I don't feel comfortable if we're going to be allowing them to put in additional units, then we have to come back and ask the council for additional funding, for additional piping and drainage for these additional units. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, that was one of
And
my
that's some of the
comments.
questions that I would have had if they chose to come tonight.
That was one of my comments, preliminary comments. I was wondering if we had proper drainage in Waters Ave for them to tie into. Their response was they didn't have to tie into Waters Ave. They could simply take a drain pipe across Waters Ave, tie into the backside of their property, and run it over to their Phase 2 work.
How did that sound to you as the director for the city representing us? Does that sound feasible
I would
to you?
consider it when I saw it.
Okay,
I would consider it. I haven't made a decision on it.
okay. So we need a professional opinion on that from you before that even occurs, so that we would know if in fact that would be feasible enough.
Right.
So that we don't have to have 33 additional units, and then it's not going to, work out with the drainage system down there. You see what I'm saying?
My
You
opinion
see
is
where I'm
whether
going?
they pipe it to their Phase 2 work, or they pipe it up Waters Ave, down Valley, down Elton. It would still exacerbate the situation by adding more impervious surface and more runoff water to that problem area. So it is my intention to proceed as quickly as possible to put in this Phase 3.
Okay.
And certainly as we review their proposed development, we can put stipulations on the fact that we are not going to approve. It's a
We're not
possibility.
responsible for that.
Right,
They
right.
are.
But that's a planning board review issue, I believe.
Now, so Phase 1, Phase 2, does it go 1, 2, then we hit 3, or do we start Phase 3 and then they just tie into us? Is that how it's going to work?
We will tie into their Phase 1 and 2.
Okay. And then Phase 1, how much of the diameter, you mentioned diameter of height.
Right, right.
What's Phase 1 and then Phase 2 again?
Phase 1 is a 30-inch pipe that ties into the intersection of Elton and
Is
Tremont.
that feasible for you to say that it would be, alleviate the drainage problem down there with these many units, 160? And then if there's an additional 33, would that be feasible? A 30-inch pipe?
None
Because
of it is.
We're putting in a 48-inch pipe, correct?
They put in a 30-inch pipe.
Yeah.
Then they put in a 48-inch pipe.
Okay.
The 30-inch pipe is 3 feet above the invert elevation of that intersection.
Okay.
So it surcharges now. It's going to surcharge until we put in our Phase 3. As part of our Phase 3, I would like to take another 30-inch pipe out at the invert elevation of that intersection, tie into their 48-inch pipe, and then take a new 48-inch pipe out to the South Creek drainage channel.
Out to the drainage?
The reason why they put in a 30-inch pipe 3 feet high was because they didn't understand that the 30-inch corrugated metal pipe was no longer there. So
It dissolved?
it dissolved, it disintegrated.
It had its
They
life
didn't
use, it
want
was
to,
up?
they didn't want to match the invert elevation for that 30-inch, with that 30-inch pipe because they could potentially have undermined their foundation. They didn't want to do that, so
Okay.
they said, you know, it's surcharging right now. Let's continue to let it surcharge. And when I say surcharge, 3 feet, we're not seeing water come out of the ground.
Okay.
We're just seeing a little water come up. It's called a hydraulic grade line in the system. It's not exiting the manhole covers. Okay, so for certain rainstorms, that will be fine. But for certainly what we saw on September 30th,
It won't.
we're going to see some flooding issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, as a director, this is suitable right now, Phase 1, Phase 2, to you, to cut into Phase 3, correct?
It is suitable for, Phase 1 and Phase 2 is suitable for right now. If we see another rainstorm that we did on September 30th, 4 inches in 4 hours, we're going to see flooding at that intersection again, only because we're relying on that short-circuit pipe
Yeah.
to the North Creek, all right? It's a solution, but it's not going to handle significant rainstorms that we potentially
So
have.
it's kind of like a Band-Aid on a gaping wound.
There you go. Right,
Basically,
right.
okay. So what we need to do is, we probably need to see these people again and ask them, why is it only a 30-inch pipe? Why isn't it a
Well,
bigger pipe?
we considered that. We talked to them about it, and it's only a 30-inch pipe because that was their original design, and they had 30-inch pipes show up at the site. And when we suggested a larger pipe, they said, we have 30-inch pipe here, we can't return it, let's go ahead and install it. It's a solution. I expect to add a second 30-inch pipe at the proper elevation. So
Will that fix?
so
will
upon,
that fix
upon,
that,
right,
Director?
right, right. Upon completion of Phase 3, we'll have two 30-inch pipes coming out of that intersection of Elton and Tremont,
Okay.
feeding a 48-inch pipe,
All right. So
feeding,
you're gonna have two 30s going into a 48,
correct.
and then hopefully that should alleviate
Correct.
the problem. Okay.
Hopefully that'll alleviate the problem. This city is so impervious that when our engineer did a down and dirty drainage calculation, they determined that pipe, that 48-inch pipe, should have been actually 72, if not larger.
Okay.
And I said, you know what, that doesn't really make a lot of sense because with a certain design storm, these catch basins we have can only take a certain amount of flow at a time. 70 catch basins feeding a 48-inch pipe versus a 72-inch pipe. We feel confident the 48-inch pipe should be fine.
Okay. And that's your opinion on it?
It's my opinion on it.
Okay. And we'll hold you to that opinion. Thank you very
Great.
much, Director. And we'll be looking probably at a $1.2 to $1.4 million three-phase coming at us, correct?
Correct.
And you hope to get this done by the summertime, correct?
We hope to start design by the summertime, construction perhaps 2017.
Okay. All right, and then when were they talking about these other 33 units that they were supposedly trying to put in?
I have no idea of their timeline. I really don't. All I was given was a set of plans, very preliminary, conceptual. I had some comments, and they included drainage issues, and I haven't heard since
Okay.
back from
And
them.
okay, and then for those 33 units that are going to be maybe coming at us,
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
yeah,
Those questions aren't germane to this question.
actually they are. I think they are, because reason being is you had a representative from the contractor was supposed to be here. They didn't come here, and I believe that, I know they were told not to, but, I mean, I still have a number of questions, and it has nothing to do with you, Director. You've done your job due diligently. But I think that, you know, we had a number of questions. This is the format that we need to ask those questions, and, you know, someone should have probably been here from them, but that's okay. Do you have any questions? Any other questions? Councilman Della Sola?
I just have a quick comment. The builder of these condos, they've done their part. 1 and 2 is almost complete.
Okay.
Reason this is all happening, because, let's say, phase 3 has collapsed. So this is why we went down there and we felt that they've done their part. They've done phase 1 and phase 2 is, I think, pretty much complete. So what's gonna happen now, that water's gonna go in the new pipes they put in, thinking the corrugated pipe was there.
And it's not,
It's not there because of our aging pipes that are in the city.
sure.
So our next step is get that phase 3 done as quick as possible. If we can make an emergency type thing, you know, with the budget, it's something that I think we have to really look into.
Okay.
I would agree with that, Mr. Chairman. During their design, they came in, they worked with myself. We threw some ideas off them, we worked back and forth together, and we came to a solution. And they've built that phase 1 and phase 2. So they are helping us as well as themselves.
Okay, and that should be suitable then. As long as we can get this phase 3, we should have suitable drainage down there.
Agreed.
Thank you. Your pleasure?
I'll send us back to sponsor. I think the builder and our part is done. Now it's up to the city to take a step into getting this problem resolved. It's in our hands, pretty much.
Okay. Motion made. Councilman Hanlon?
Motion made for the sponsor? Is that what you said? I don't mean to interject, but maybe I think you should send a memo to the mayor, ask him to put this on some sort of emergency movement to get this 48-inch pipe put in before 2017.
Okay.
Because, you know, we're going to be faced
that.
with the spring of 2017, which would be when possible snow melts, maybe not this year, but.
A letter to the mayor requesting.
Just to ask him, you know, if he
Yep, good
would
idea.
put it on an emergency kind of a basis and get back to us if he will, if he won't. I
Emergency
mean,
funds.
I can't make motions, but you can.
No, I'll make that motion.
A letter to the mayor requesting. We could just put this out as the minutes. Okay. We'll recommend this to the city council as a whole, to send a letter to the mayor and request these funds so that we can get this project up and running. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you all.
appearing. Excuse the customary thanks. Thank you for appearing.
Mr. Chairman, if we could suspend the rules and take item number 6. It's also
Suspend the rules
something
and
for the
take
engineer.
item number 6. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Right. Item number 6, this is a resolution offered by Council John McKinnon for a total compilation of recent work repairs on Ashton and Cumberland.
Could we have the city engineer before us, please? If you could just state your names again, gentlemen.
Julio Superior, city engineer.
Jerry Navarra, DPW Director.
Thank you for appearing again. Just a compilation of what's going on Ashton and some times that it would be actually done and what happened with that project down there? And if it's going to actually be, Cumberland Street is going to be taken into consideration?
Presently, right now, National Grid is putting new gas line, and I assume all the residents actually are aware of it. What we plan to do is, after the gas has been installed, our next phase is to look into the water situation and see how well we can do it, you know. We don't have a time frame for the roadway rehab right now. But what we're trying to do right now is to compile streets, you know, through our pavement management, you know. And by so doing, would probably consider Cumberland, Ashland, is it Cumberland?
Cumberland.
Cumberland, right. Cumberland is a private road, you know, but that doesn't stop us from doing it because the council has already given the green light that private roads can also be fixed. So after I got the calls from the residents, what I'm trying to do is make sure all the utilities on those streets, you know, in good shape. If not, we have plans on fixing them then before we can go ahead and do the street over.
Okay, so that's on Ashton and Cumberland?
Yeah, we have Ashland as in our list, but I was talking to the director, you know, he feels that we should look into Cumberland also.
I
to do
mean,
the streets.
the road, have you seen pictures of the road? The
Yes.
road is actually.
We plan on getting Cumberland when we do Ashton.
Okay,
If the water lines are good to go, we'll try to get it done this year.
okay.
And one key thing that we, you know, I know Ashland has come into, most of the residents have questioned us why not fix Ashton Street, you know. Some streets in the city are, you know, ridiculous, you know, they needs more work to be done. But due to the fact that we have drainage issues on the corner of Ashton and
Big
Edith,
drainage issues there.
so it's something that the city wants to look into because there's a drain problem. Ashland, Cumberland, all that area, because those areas were filled land, you know. So it's a problem that the city needs to look into. And also we're trying to do the I&I, you know, the inflow, you know, from the drain into the sewer because a section of that area is also tied to the sewer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that the Director Bill is working on to get some funding so that we can move ahead on it.
Just to speak, I know there was actually cameras that they looked through the piping down there, and I don't know what the report was from that, but I remember they did a study down there. And
Yes.
What was the results?
No, I remember a couple of years ago, I've actually addressed some of these issues. The reason we had the problem there because the drain has it's a 90-degree bend right straight to the school.
Okay.
So it's a bottleneck there because those two catch basins on Ashton are tied into that the pipe. So when there's a lot of flow on that pipe, it doesn't allow the catch basin to to flow properly. So that area tends to flood, and those areas actually filled area because looking into my maps, back then they said it used to be a marshland or filled land,
Mm-hmm.
So what we tried to do at the time was that from our past engineers, there was no solution. But anytime we get into that problem of fixing it, it becomes, how do you get the funding to do it? But now the city is looking into it because MWRA has done research by TVing those lines. Now we can, and also consultants that we've hired. So now we can put those things into play because Bill is actually looking into the watersheds and how best we can solve the problems.
Okay. So pretty much we're gonna solve that problem that's down there then?
Yes.
Okay. Correct. All right. What we'll do then is I'm gonna refer this back to sponsor, knowing that Cumberland will be it'll be taken care of along with Ashton Street. The piping underground, all the natural gas and water and everything else will be looked at, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, and the drainage?
And the drain. Yeah.
Okay.
And also the sidewalks is, I guess the resident will complain about the sidewalks.
Yes.
That all should be done. It's going to be a full depth construction.
All right. Thank you very much, because it's long overdue down there, and a lot of complaints were coming in, so thank you. Excuse, if any other questions?
No, but there's a piece coming up for
Oh,
both
okay.
of the gentlemen, so if we could just ask them to sit tight, I'd
We
appreciate
should
it.
refer it back to sponsor.
It's been moved, motion to refer it back to sponsor?
Motion made to refer this piece back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, can we suspend the rules and take item number 12?
Motion made to suspend the rules and take item number 12. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read item number 12.
All right, item number 12. This is a resolution by Council Frank Capone to discuss the continuously defunct crossing light at the intersection of Broadway and Second Street.
Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has nothing to do with the city of Everett or the employees. As you probably well know, it's a crossing light, a button. It's so frustrating because I think it's run over like every other week. I don't know how many times the city's had to replace it.
I'd say at least 4 times already.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's a cone on it now. I don't even know if the base is structurally sound anymore. It's been hit so many times.
It's been yes. The problem is, obviously, is the tractor trailers are taking a shortcut by coming down Second Street instead of going up around the Rotary to get on the Parkway. So they're just knocking it over time after time.
They can't make the turn. They come up on the sidewalk. They hit the crossing light. This is something that I had requested through the Traffic Commission. I know it involves a lot of state involvement, and it's a nightmare.
Right.
Is there anything that we can do on the local level? And this would just be the section from the Parkway to Broadway. Is there anything that we can do at the local level just because of the public safety nature of it?
Maybe we could put up some bollards up there, right at that corner, protected.
Is that the corner?
The corner, right across the street
Broadway
from the
and
fire
Second.
station.
Yeah. The issue there, if I may recall, is when the street was done over again. On that section, it was no parking.
Yeah.
And what happened is that most people park next to that light there. Yeah. And what happened, then the light changes because that light is sort of synchronized the whole Broadway. The only person that controls that light is the fire station because it's preamp, for an emergency.
Sure.
So that was one issue that we had. But because the resident had problems when we built the roadway, was they decided to park on that side because it was very difficult for people to park, because you have a lot of businesses around that area. So that's why people park there, and that seems to change. It doesn't synchronize the light properly, so it changes the light often.
Yeah.
So in terms of the trailers or trucks, maybe what probably they need it's proper signals, or something to enhance that, it's the pedestrian can cross over, because it's going to be very difficult to move that mast arms and change it to a different location because it was all designed by the consultants and ordained by the MassDOT,
Yeah.
So one thing I think we might want to do is, because I'm not more or less a traffic person, and I would think that it would be good to get traffic, involved. We can get Mass DOT, and we have a traffic in-house, that they can coordinate it. Maybe they should be able to give us an opinion on what to do. If you put a bollard or something like that, something happens again, maybe there's an accident, then the city might be liable. I don't know.
Sure.
But we can look into it, and
It's just amazing how many times it happens, and we just had the recent snow.
Right.
And I live right around the corner there, so I see it all the time. And it's amazing, tractor trailer tires in the snow, up over that where it had just knocked it down.
Right.
And the thing that concerns me is, it costs money, it's time, there's effort for the city to keep replacing this. More importantly, it's on a sidewalk. These wheels are coming up on the sidewalk all the time. One of these days, especially with the school right down the street, it's going to be a child on that
Correct.
sidewalk, and it won't be the crossing light. It's going to be a kid who's going to get
Well,
hurt.
maybe we can work with Chris Hannon from the traffic, from the police department, Jay Monty from community development, and we can reach out to Mass DOT, and maybe collectively we can figure something out to fix it.
That'd be great, because I know that it's going to require state involvement.
And I think the city should look into more on rerouting these trucks. It's been on the table for a while,
Yeah.
and we don't have a truck route in the city. So if it's something that the city should look into, then that would probably help the situation. Because if you take, for example, back then we had accident by Everett Square, a trailer on the crosswalk that happened to hit a lady, and the person died there. So when we recommend to mass highway, at that time, to have some kind of enhancement, whereby you have lighting on the crosswalks, it wasn't allowed at that time, So if something had to do that, it's probably, we should have MassDOT, give us an opinion.
Where can I start with that? Because I really don't know.
Well, you're going to start, you can start from us now.
Refer
now that
to
you've come
you?
to us
Okay.
now, what we can do is we'll work with the director, and we'll also work with planning.
Okay.
And, get the folks who can give us a special opinion on it.
Okay, so if this body referred it to the engineer's office,
Right.
that would be the right thing to do?
That's right.
That would be fantastic. It's been an issue for a long time, and I really appreciate it. I don't have any other questions.
Just a quick question. What if we bump the sidewalk out with some lolly columns there? Bring the curbing out on, I know you don't want to make it shorter. Made a bump out right on that corner where it always happens. Put the lolly columns 2 or 3 feet from that where it always gets hit. It's just an
I think we'd have to go
idea.
to Community Development, Jay Monty, to
Yeah,
look
no
that
matter
over.
what you do, you need a study, and no matter, if we go there and do, just like you say, and it's not, ordained by the council and things like that, because you just can't go and change the alignment of a street, without getting the normal regulations
Yeah.
in place. Then that might create an issue, because if an accident happens there, they're going to say, well, can I see your ordinance, or see, was it approved? So those things creates issues, so it's something that we have to look properly before.
I know a
make a
bump out,
decision.
they're still gonna hit them. I mean, you go down where Maxwell Speedfield is.
Oh,
Yeah,
that ball is
nail
bent
salon on
over.
the corner.
The first ball is bent
It's a
over.
6-inch pipe, and it's bent like it was a piece of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, just throwing out ideas out there, but
We'll have
thank you.
Community Development look into it for a design, if possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
Excuse the customary thanks.
Excuse the customary thing.
If we could please
actually-
ask city
yeah.
services to stick around.
I'm not going anywhere. Closing the night out.
On the motion?
On the piece, I'd like to refer this out to the body to refer the piece to the engineer's office. for further
Motion
study.
made and seconded to refer this to the
Engineer's office. for-
engineer's
for further
office
study.
through our common council meeting?
Through the meeting. yeah,
Through our common council
With
meeting,
favorable, with a favorable.
with a favorable
To
recommendation
refer to the engineer's office.
to refer to engineers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all those opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, if we could suspend the rules and take item number 11.
Suspend the rules and, motion made to suspend the rules and take item number 11. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read item number 11.
Item number 11. This is a resolution up by Council Frank Capone to discuss the hot top replacement on cement sidewalks after contractors have performed the work. This is evident along Post Street and other locations throughout the city.
Councilman Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to City Services Director. Do we have, I don't know if there's a plan in place. I don't know if recent work, cement gets broken up and then hot top gets dropped in. But as you drive around the city, you just happen to see it. There's quite a few areas where work was done at some point.
Right.
Whether it was recent or older. I know in some areas it's older. I don't know if there's more work that's scheduled, but there's a lot of hot top replacement. Do we have anything in place in the city in terms of when a contract is doing work, that they have to refill it with cement and?
I've been speaking with National Grid, Dan Cameron, and he assured me that any hot top will be replaced with concrete cement for the sidewalks, unless we are planning on doing the street ourselves in the upcoming year. We would take care of it ourselves with the contractor.
I know that down on Bow Street, there was some service lines, I think, that were replaced, and there's still hot top there. Is there more work that has to happen?
There's still more work that needs to be done down
And
there.
that's why it hasn't.
That's
been
why it
closed
hasn't been
down.
finished.
And then across the city, I've noticed markings. I'm gonna tax my memory now.
Where about?
FDR
FDR,
or FRD?
Devereaux?
It's painted on, I'm not sure what that stands for.
If I had some locations, I'd,
What color is it?
Red. There's red, there's yellow with
Yellow-
arrows,
Yellow, I mean, not to interrupt, yellow's
the
gas.
gas.
yes.
And then,
Red's, it could be the fire
Okay.
alarm.
okay, so it might be mains that cut off.
Possibly.
It's all dig, part of dig safe.
Dig
Okay.
safe, right.
All right. So.
You talking about Hugh Commons right over here, possibly, maybe? You see all the markings?
So well, let me pull this up while I'm talking, because I got them in here. But with regards to contractors doing work, when they break it up, they're supposed to pour cement
Correct.
afterwards. Do we have any plan in place in the event that they don't, and you only have so many people you can run around and chase that?
With having Bill O'Rourke addition and Julius now, having a second set of hands now, who'll be able to oversee these things and pick them up and hold them responsible.
Okay. And I don't know if, I guess on Otis and Henderson in Liberty, the FDR is on there, I don't know, fire department. So I didn't know what.
Liberty,
so-
Liberty Union and Devon's are scheduled for this coming year to
Okay.
be redone.
Okay. And,
I could supply the list to you guys for the road management program of streets, upcoming streets. I mean, they could differ pending if certain situations, occur.
okay. All right, so when you see that hot top, it means that there's additional work that needs to be done.
Correct.
Because I noticed on McKinley, and when I was out in the campaign trail, someone actually
I think
brought
I
my
know. I think I
attention
know
to
who
it,
you're talking about.
that it had been hot top for a while, and they're like, when's this gonna change? So is there more work there?
We would have
or-
to check. We're trying to be proactive by getting all the utilities done first before we rip up the street. So I would have to ask, my water department if the water lines are all set on McKinley Street. If they are, then they will be put on this year's agenda for the
Okay.
road.
Wonderful. And that's an expense that's incurred by the contractor, whoever's dug it up, and the city just
Correct.
regulates it, makes sure that they do what they're supposed to do.
Dan Cameron assured me that any hot top will be replaced by concrete this spring.
Great. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. I have no other questions.
Any other questions, councilors? Seeing none? You're, Motion.
Well, excuse customary thanks first.
I
Unless,
think
is there
we need
something
them for
else?
the
Oh,
next
wait,
meeting.
there's something else, I'm sorry. So I refer this back to sponsor.
motion made and seconded to refer this item back to sponsor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read.
If we could suspend the rules and take item number 13.
Motion made to suspend the rules and take item number 13. All those in favor? All those opposed? The ayes have it. Please read item number 13.
Item number 13. This is a resolution up by Councilors Michael McLaughlin and Richard Delasola to talk about the upcoming snow season and steps to be taken to keep our city safe, including fire hydrant markings.
Councilman Delasola?
Thank you. Councilman McLaughlin couldn't be here. The snow, unfortunately, you'd be ready tonight.
Getting some tonight.
Tomorrow's
That's right.
4 to 8 inches. I have no issues with the plowing itself. I know you guys are all geared up. You do it every year. You're halfway, we're halfway through
Halfway
the-
home,
the
right.
battle here.
Yep.
On the markers for the hydrants, I see them all over the place broken. I talked to a few officials in Cambridge and Somerville. What they do, the water department guys actually do it. After the winter, they take them off. And then in the fall, they put them back on. I think what we did was a great idea by former Council Marchese. I think we put them up too early, that the kids is like a toy. And someone's gonna get hurt with them. I mean, those things fly back like a slingshot, so. That was my issue. Maybe we could talk about this later on, about after the winter, take the markers off, store them down the city yard or wherever, and then in the fall, replace them.
We did spend $10,000 for 700, and you're right, there's probably about 50% of them been snapped off.
Correct.
And with this winter, thus far, we have received very little snow so far. I think even if we put them up last month, or they would have still been about 50% snapped off. I've contacted Revere. Revere Fire Department actually purchased and installs them. So if we want to go in the future, I just don't want to waste the taxpayers' money.
Correct.
And I understand it's a safety concern, but where the kids are just going around snapping them, I'd like to have the fire department go into the high schools and other schools and start educating some of the kids, explaining the necessity of these hydrant markers. I think if we reach out to them, maybe educate them, it'll alleviate some of the raking of the hydrant markers.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Any other questions? Seeing none? Excuse customary thanks. Thank you for
Thank you.
appearing tonight.
Have a good night.
Thanks,
On the motion?
I'll send this back to sponsor.
Refer it back to sponsor. All those in favor?
All right.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. You have done so. Please read item number 5.
Item number 5, last piece of business. Resolution up by Councilors Michael McLaughlin and John McKinnon Did a representative from National Grid come to speak regarding work being done on Ferry Street?
I'd like to actually refer this to the first meeting in March and re-invite National Grid to come up along with the sponsors.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You have done so.
Motion to adjourn?
There's a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You have done so.